This week's full moon in the sign of Capricorn is going to be a little bit interesting simply because we have so many other astrological aspects happening around this full moon. The full moon itself on its own isn't too exciting, but everything else that's happening throughout this week, before and after the full moon, definitely is going to pack a punch. So I would definitely suggest checking out my weekly astrology video. I break that down in depth. But in this video specifically, I will go over this full moon in Capricorn and briefly go over all of the other aspects that are happening around this full moon because this energy will be coloring the energy of this full moon so much. I want you guys to be prepared on how this will be affecting you and your sign based off of your rising sign, your sun sign, your moon sign. So generally, full moons, as we all know, are cycles of completions, they are endings, something that we have to come to a close. Being in the sign of Capricorn, Capricorn is mainly about building things and building a sense of security, of structure. It is very meticulous. And so there could be cycles of closure when it comes to our productivity levels, how we work, how we get things done. Maybe certain structures that we've had in place are now coming to an end. But of course, every sign is going to be feeling this energy a little bit differently depending on where this is falling in your specific house in your chart. If you don't know your rising sign, you can use the calculator that I posted down below in the comments so you can find your exact rising sign. Do not use AI. AI is consistently wrong with people's rising signs, moon signs, sun signs, whatever it is. Well, it usually gets sun signs right, but everything else, it gets it wrong. So make sure you're using the calculator I posted down below. You can use any calculator, but that one's the easiest one that I found so far. And just as a reminder, you can look at these predictions based off of your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. I go based off of rising. Rising is going to be the most prominent energy of your chart. But of course, not everybody knows their rising sign because not everyone knows their exact birth time. So if you don't know your exact birth time, or if you just want a more holistic overview of how this energy is going to be affecting you and your chart, you can also look at what it means for your sun and rising sign. So let's say you are a Libra sun, Taurus moon, Capricorn rising. You can look at the forecast that I will be posting for all three of those signs. It will be affecting you slightly differently for each one, but overall it's going to give you a nice general interpretation how this energy will be affecting you and that sign. So let's dive straight into Capricorn rising. If you are a Capricorn sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be happening in the first house. The first house has to do with yourself, your identity, your self-concept. There's a lot of restructuring happening when it comes to your self-concept and how you express yourself into this world with this full moon in Capricorn. There's a lot of other changes happening for you this week when it comes to your stability, your security. Saturn in your fourth house is asking you to reevaluate the systems and structures you have in place when it comes to your home and family life. And because Mercury retrograde is happening right before this full moon, I wouldn't necessarily suggest making completely rash decisions at the time of this full moon. Chances are you're going to need to come back and reevaluate any decisions or ideas that come into play during this full moon. You're not seeing everything for what it is because Mercury is retrograde. Mars is also entering your sixth house right at the beginning of the week, the day right before this full moon, which is building up an increase of energy when it comes to your work life, when it comes to your health, your daily routines, and your habits. There's going to be more of a chaotic and unstable energy that happens throughout this week when it comes to those matters of your health and your daily routines, because we will have a Mars-Uranus conjunction happening in your sixth house. So I would also keep that in mind as a background energy that's happening throughout this week during this full moon. There's a lot of restructuring that's going on an internal level, on an internal basis. How are your routines being structured? How is your home and family life? This is all going to start coming up. You're going to start questioning it and seeing how maybe you can make certain changes, which ultimately changes your identity and how you present yourself into the world. You're creating a new identity for yourself, but that first starts with making those changes in your foundation to make sure that your next stage of evolution actually can support where it is you're meant to go. If you are a Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising, This is specifically happening in your second house, and the second house has to do with your finances and your income, your self-worth. This is how you make your money. So there's going to be changes coming up with how you make your money and how you view yourself. This full moon can reveal where maybe you have been undervaluing yourself, where have you been selling yourself short, where can you restructure things either within your work or within your business to make sure that you're getting paid what you deserve. Saturn in the fifth house, which is the ruler of this Capricorn full moon, is asking you to evaluate where is it that maybe fear and restriction has gotten in the way of you expressing yourself creatively and romantically. These restrictions or these feelings of fear may be limiting that growth that you're expecting financially. We also have in the same week Mars entering your seventh house of partnerships, closely going to meet up with Uranus. This is going to bring some instability and perhaps some chaos, maybe even some disruptions when it comes to your partnerships, your relationships, the people that are closest to you. However, we also do have Jupiter, which is your ruling planet, moving into the sign of Leo, entering your ninth house. The ninth house has to do with your belief systems, it has to do with long distance travel and higher education. So these areas of your life can experience expansion for this next coming year ahead. There can be some roadblocks and some blockages that come up with this. It's not going to be entirely smooth sailing, but overall, the ninth house is a really good and positively placed house. You guys naturally gravitate towards more ninth house themes because Sagittarius and the ninth house have very similar themes and topics associated to them. We value things like freedom, expansion, expanding your mind, learning new things, experiencing new cultures, different people. All of these things are now going to experience expansion in your life. So overall should be very positive for you guys. The only thing, once again, I would be mindful of is the financial areas of your life are currently under review. And Mercury retrograde being in your eighth house of like debt, investments, inheritances, there may be some reviewing that needs to happen in terms of that space of your life. And that's going to be showing up a little bit more with this full moon in Capricorn. There's going to be a huge spotlight in terms of your finances, what you make, and also your investments, and maybe the money that you receive from other people is going to be a huge theme for you guys for this full moon and this week in general. Now, if you are a Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising, this is going to be happening in your third house. The third house has to do with your communication. It also has to do with things like short distance travel, siblings, and things that generally happen within your neighborhood. So I would definitely be mindful. There could be some conversations that happen this week that open your mind, that reveal certain things to you, because the full moon usually is like an illumination type of energy. So the fact that this full moon's happening in your third house of communication, there could be something that comes up in conversation that illuminates a truth to you and now changes the way you operate or changes the way things need to operate from now on. Saturn, the ruler of this full moon, is going to be in your sixth house, which is reminding you that you need to have structures in place when it comes to your daily routines and your health habits if you plan to keep things moving forward efficiently. You also have Mars moving into your eighth house, reaching a conjunction with Uranus this week, and the eighth house has to do with other people's money, taxes, inheritances, investments. It also has to do with deeper, more psychological themes, things like emotional vulnerability and maybe feelings of betrayal. So this can ignite and inspire you to heal through those things. There could be certain triggers that come up that press those buttons when it comes to those topics like debt, investments, other people's money, or even deeper emotional themes that need to be healed. But on the positive side, you do have Jupiter moving into your 10th house the day right after this full moon. And the 10th house is your career, your public image, and your reputation. This happens once every 12 years. So this is going to be a big increase when it comes to your career path and your reputation and what it is you want to be known for. This is definitely going to be one of the greatest career expanding moments for you guys that you've experienced in years. So I would definitely take advantage of it. Not to say that it's all going to be smooth sailing, because there are going to be some aspects affecting this Jupiter in the 10th house as we continue on throughout the year. Overall, this energy can feel a little bit destabilizing. Like I said, there might be a conversation that comes up that decides or makes you realize that maybe you need to pivot or change. With Mercury being retrograde in your 9th house, I would say that to not make the most rash decisions right now, because chances are you may decide to change your mind on it, or you may get even more information as this Mercury retrograde period continues, which makes you realize something completely different. So, right now we're still in the beginning stages. Yes, things are coming to an end, things are coming to a close when it comes to these more third house themes. It could also, third house has to do with like short distance travel. So, like, even just deciding that you need to sell your car or something like that could be something that comes up for you guys. But overall, this is an energy of expansion that's coming to you guys, and just realizing that this week there may be a conversation that changes the course of your future. If you are a Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this is going to be happening in your 4th house. The 4th house has to do with your home and family life. So there could be some endings, some shifts, some changes that come up during this full moon. Saturn is also in your 7th house, and the 7th house is your relationships, your marriage partnerships. Saturn brings restrictions and limitation. It also asks you to step up and be mature in the situations that you are dealing with. So any relationship situations that don't express that level of maturity and authority may be called into question during this full moon. Mars entering your 9th house is increasing the motivation to want to travel, to learn new things, to expand your belief systems. However, there may be some sort of chaos or instability when it comes to those areas of your life, because it is gearing up to meet with Uranus, and Uranus is a little bit of chaos and disruption when it comes to those areas. So there could be some sort of new perspective that comes up to you that completely changes your belief system or worldview. One positive thing that you also have happening this week, alongside with this full moon, is that Jupiter is entering into your 11th house. And the 11th house has to do with friendships, networking, your long term hopes, dreams, and aspirations. Jupiter expands all of these things and brings good luck, good blessings, and abundance. I'm not trying to say it's going to be entirely smooth sailing, because we do have some bumps along the road that are going to be happening throughout this year. But overall, this is a new energy that's coming into your life when it comes to your relationships, your friendships, your networks, that can expand your visions for the future, can expand your dreams and what it is that you hope you can achieve. So overall this week, realizing that by strengthening your roots, by strengthening your home and family life, you can really set the stage for a bigger and brighter future for yourself. There's going to be a lot of focus on relationships for you guys, and naturally as a Libra rising, you guys are very interested in relationships and making sure that all of your relationships are harmonious. So there's going to be a big emphasis on that when it comes to your home and family relationships and your actual marriage partnerships, love relationships, and even business partnerships. Making sure you're not overstaying your welcome or keeping people around simply because you're trying to make everybody happy. Making sure that you're taking a disciplined and very logical approach, because Capricorn can be kind of cold. Capricorn sees things for what they are and wants to take the right logical approach. It is very methodical. It's not emotional. It's not trying to people please. It's doing what needs to be done to ensure the proper results. And sometimes that can hurt other people's feelings. Sometimes that may not always please everybody. And I know that's difficult for you guys as a Libra rising or sun or moon, because you always want to make sure that everyone around you is happy and good. You want to take care of your people. But we have to be logical. We have to be grounded in seeing things for what they are, and also seeing what it is that we want to achieve and what changes need to be made so that we can properly achieve those things. If you are a Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, this is happening in your 5th house, and the 5th house has to do with your creativity, it has to do with children, also it has to do with your romance and dating life. So there could be some changes that need to happen, some restructuring, some endings when it comes to these areas of your life. Saturn, who is the ruler of this full moon, is going to be in your 8th house, and it's asking you to work through these fears, perhaps of insecurity, of trust, of betrayal that you have that may be getting in the way of fully expressing yourself creatively, or maybe even diving into new romance. Where is it that maybe you have certain fears or restrictions around your vulnerability and being open emotionally? Mars also is going to be entering into your 10th house the day right before this full moon. So, this is going to be bringing an increase of energy when it comes to your 10th house themes that has to do with your career, your public image, your reputation. So things are going to start moving a lot faster when it comes to your career. However, there could be some disruptions, some chaos, some unexpected news also, because Mars is quickly approaching Uranus, and Uranus usually brings disruptions and chaos and things that come up out of the blue. So yes, there's going to be more energy, more forward momentum in this area, but it comes with a little bit of a disruption. So I would just keep that in mind. Jupiter is also entering into your 12th house the day right after this full moon. This is bringing more optimism, more expansion in themes that relate to your spirituality, the dream space, more subconscious themes. So if you've been having, a little bit of a tough time mentally, Jupiter is going to bring more expansion into your inner world. It's going to make you feel more happy and confident within yourself, by yourself. And it's going to stimulate a time for you of deep inner growth. So, overall, this week, your career is definitely accelerating, but don't forget why it is that you're building these things. If you are a Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 6th house. The 6th house has to do with your daily work, your routines. It has to do with things that you do on a day-to-day basis. So all of these areas of your life can start coming into review. You could decide to quit a job, the way you currently have your day set up, maybe your current scheduling is not something that's working for you. You want to create something that's a little bit more practical, more refined, and more structured in a way that is beneficial for where it is you want to go and how it is you want to achieve your dreams. Saturn, which is the ruler of this full moon, is in your 9th house, and it's asking you to go over whether your current habits support this long-term vision. How is it that your current belief systems maybe are getting in the way of you achieving these goals? Mars is going to be entering your 11th house of friendships and networks and social groups. This is happening the day right before the full moon. So we're going to experience an increase of energy when it comes to these areas of your life. However, it is approaching a conjunction with Uranus, and Uranus can bring disruptions, chaos, and mayhem. So for this week in general, you're going to be feeling this undercurrent of yes, your social groups are expanding. Yes, you may even meet certain people this week that completely change the trajectory of your life. There could be some disruption that comes up. There could be some chaos element that is associated with this as well. But overall, it is exciting and it is bringing new things, new energy into this area of your life and expanding your vision and your worldview. Another positive thing for Leos and Leo rising is that the day right after, we are having Jupiter enter into your 1st house. Jupiter's entering into the sign of Leo, which is bringing a lot of positivity, optimism, abundance type of energy into your sign. This is something that happens only once every 12 years, so I would definitely relish in this new energy. Of course, it's not all going to be smooth sailing. There are going to be some aspects that happen with this Jupiter transit that can make it feel a little bit more intense. I will be here to talk about them on my channel. I will be making posts about them in videos, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But overall, this is a beautiful new energy that is embarking you on a new cycle of new beginnings, bringing new opportunities in your path. So just make sure with this full moon that your habits and your daily routines are in line to support this new life that you are creating. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this full moon is happening in your 7th house. The 7th house has to do with marriage partnerships and relationships. It also has to do with business partnerships too. Partnerships of close kinds. It also can deal with open enemies. So there could be some endings that come in terms of these areas of your life, in terms of relationships. There could be some changes that come up or some moment of clarity that shows up with these relationships that now is asking you to restructure the way that they are currently formed or the way that they currently are. Saturn, who is the ruler of this full moon, is actively in your 10th house, and the 10th house has to do with your career, your public image, your reputation. So it's definitely asking you to see how is it that maybe your career is getting in the way of your relationships? How is it that maybe your career could be restricting you from your partnerships and your relationships, or vice versa? Mars is also going to be entering your 12th house. This is happening the day before this full moon. So this is going to be coloring this energy of the week. And the 12th house has to do with your subconscious mind. It has to do with your dream space. It's more internal reflection. It is not a very physical house. It's very hidden. It's underneath the surface. And so Mars coming in there is definitely bringing in some energy and stirring up some old feelings, some old emotions, things that you have kept underneath the surface that you haven't really thought about are now starting to bubble up because they're asking you to see them and heal through them so you can actually create the next version of yourself that is more in alignment. These themes and topics that do bubble up this week is giving you a sense of self-awareness that can then allow you to be honest with yourself about how your relationships are currently structured, how is it that they are affecting your career, or how is it that your career is affecting your relationships. One good news about this week is that Jupiter is entering your second house, and the second house has to do with finances. Jupiter expands and brings wealth and good fortune to everything that it touches. So Jupiter entering your second house, happening the day right after, it's going to stay there for the next year. This is bringing expansion when it comes to your wealth, when it comes to how you make money, and your finances in general. So overall, this clarity that's coming to you, all of these subconscious blockages or feelings, disruptions that may come up this week, yes, it can feel intense, but it's allowing you and it's giving you the chance to clear them so that these new financial opportunities can come through, and it does so in a way that doesn't negatively affect your relationships. If you are a Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising, then this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house has to do with your shared finances, your resources. It is also a deeply emotional house and can deal with more deeply psychological themes such as trust, betrayal, and more deeper intimate relationship dynamics. So there definitely could be some endings associated with these topics and themes in your life. 8th house once again has to do with debt and investments, inheritances, so there could be some endings associated with that. Saturn, which is the ruler of this full moon, is going to be in your 11th house. And the 11th house has to do with your friendships, your networks, your social circles. And so it's asking you to maybe take a look at how your current friendships or even social circles are set up. Where is it maybe that it's restricting your growth? Where is it that maybe you're not allowing yourself to ask for help from other people, or even you don't feel that your current social groups are people that you trust enough to have your back? So you're definitely taking a moment to reevaluate some of these friendships, the people you have around you, even your own goals, dreams, and aspirations. How is it that maybe it's thinking too small? How is it that maybe you're restricting yourself? Because Saturn is about restriction, it's fear. So where is it that fear and restriction is maybe holding you back in these areas of your life? Another thing that's happening this week that is coloring this full moon is that Mars is entering your first house. This is happening the day right before this full moon and will stay there for the next, I want to say, month and a half to 2 months. So Mars entering your first house is definitely bringing some interesting, spicy energy. Let's just say that. Mars is about separation, anger, aggression. It can be very forceful, but also courageous, ambitious, having a lot of energy to get things done. And so people are going to start noticing your presence a little bit more. You're going to be more energized. You're going to be more out there. However, as we move on to the week, and this is another energy that's going to be coloring this full moon, is it will meet with Uranus. So you guys are definitely having the most intense week of all of the signs, because this Mars-Uranus conjunction is explosive type of energy. There might be some thing that happens this week that you feel extremely charged up about. You suddenly decide you need to change, pivot, everything needs to flip, everything needs to change. It is very like burn it all to the ground type of energy. You're definitely entering one of the most unpredictable but exciting times of the year. One very positive thing that's happening for you guys also is that Jupiter is entering your third house. And the third house has to do with your communication style, it has to do with your siblings also, and short distance travel, so things like cars, trains, public transport, things of that nature. So Jupiter entering your third could mean more positive opportunities and blessings of abundance when it comes to speaking opportunities, the way that you communicate. It could have something to do with your siblings, could be a new car, a new way of transportation, or discovering new things in your area, meeting new people in your area, making new friends in your area that influence you and put you on the path towards this next stage of your evolution. If you are a Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your ninth house. The ninth house has to do with long distance travel, higher education. It has to do with your belief systems. So all of this could start coming into question now. There could be certain endings and things that are shifting when it comes to these themes in your life. There could be a very important perspective or shift in mindset that happens with this full moon in Capricorn. The ruler of this full moon is Saturn, and Saturn is going to be in your 12th house. The 12th house is a very spiritual house. So it could be that something that happens on a subconscious level. There's an understanding that happens even through the dream space, because the 12th house rules dreams. It rules things like the subconscious mind, things that you understand through solitude, through reflection, through meditation, through more spiritual practices. You can start getting revelations or insights that then decide to change your worldview and the way you're currently seeing things. You could also get some insights of intuition when it comes to things like long distance travel or higher education, certain ideas of where you want to go, things you want to experience, things you want to learn. Another thing that's happening this week, very close to this full moon, so it's going to be coloring this energy very well, is Mars entering into your second house. This is happening the day right before this full moon, and the second house has to do with your finances. It has to do how you make your money and your own self-worth. Mars entering the second house is bringing a very energizing energy. It wants you to go out and get it. It's pushing you towards more abundance. However, there may be some chaos, there may be some disruption that comes along with it, because Mars is going to be meeting up with Uranus, and Uranus is chaos, disruption, and just instability in general. So there may be this energy of like, yes, I want to make more money, yes, I want more opportunities. However, there could be some disruption or some chaos that gets in the way, or some instability that happens at first before we really start understanding and fully go forward on these new opportunities. This could also be like an increase of spending too, because Mars is just like, it has so much energy. It's just like, it could either be increased spending or increased income. So it's always like an increase of energy. It's like putting a fire under your butt when it comes to your finances. So there could also be some unexpected financial changes that come with you guys. And another positive thing that's happening is the day right after this full moon is Jupiter is moving into your fourth house. Fourth house has to do with your home and family life, so there could be some positive blessings when it comes to your home and family. There could be maybe some moves that come in. So just expanding your home, expanding your family life. You could be redecorating your emotional security when it comes to your safety, your emotional safety when it comes to the house is expanding during this time. And mind you, this Jupiter transit is a 1 year long transit, so this is going to be expanding your home and family life for the next upcoming year, starting this week. If you are in Aries, sun, moon, or rising, then this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 10th house. The 10th house has to do with your career, your public image, your reputation, so there could be some endings that come along associated with this full moon, or some realizations. Something comes up and you realize, maybe this isn't the right career for me, or you finally decide and you finally get an opportunity to move along up in your career. Saturn, which is the ruler of this full moon, is currently in your first house, so it is bringing up themes and reflection when it comes to how is it that maybe you aren't fully expressing yourself to your greatest ability. Where is it that you're holding yourself back? Maybe because you don't feel like you're good enough, maybe because you don't have enough faith in yourself. Saturn in the first can sometimes bring up these feelings of like, I'm not good enough, no one's ever going to listen to me. Like, you can be a little bit more self-deprecating with this energy. And so these themes are going to start coming up to the surface in asking you to reflect, how is it that maybe your own self-belief is getting in the way of you achieving these higher goals and dreams for yourself when it comes to your professional life. Could also represent, because Saturn requires patience and it requires to really put in the work, blood, sweat, and tears before you actually see any type of recognition. So Saturn in your first house is reminding you, sometimes in order to achieve the success that you're looking for, you need to work hard and be patient. You need to be patient. I know as an Aries, you want things done fast, you want things done right now. You're like, why do I have to wait? But Saturn in your first is asking you to slow down and to really make sure you're doing things properly, make sure you're doing things meticulously, because if not, it's just going to keep tearing them down and tearing them down and tearing them down and asking you to rebuild it over and over and over again until you learn patience and until you learn that things need to be built in the proper way, not the fastest way, in order to achieve that success. Some other things that are happening this week that are also coloring this energy for you is that Mars is entering your third house. Third house has to do with your communication style, and so Mars gives you a little bit more energy. It brings more courage, more ambition to how you communicate. It can also lead to maybe some more disagreements, especially because it will be meeting with Uranus towards the end of this week. So there may be some disagreements that come up, there may be some insights that come up due to some disagreements or some chaos, something random that happens, something unexpected that happens that suddenly makes you realize you need to change the way maybe you communicate things, the way you express yourself. Something's going to happen in the realm of communication and expression, and it's going to catch you off guard, but it's going to propel you forward. You also have Jupiter moving into your fifth house. This is happening the day right after the full moon. Jupiter moving into the fifth house is expanding opportunities for creativity for children. So I would definitely be mindful. If you want to have children, it would be a great time with this Jupiter transit. If you don't want to have children, just make sure you're using the proper methods of protection, right? It's also bringing some more joyful positivity and abundance when it comes to your romance and dating life, because fifth house does rule things like romance. So overall, we do have, some intense, heavier energies, but we also have some positivity being sprinkled into the mix. And reminding yourself this week that success isn't just about climbing higher, it's making sure that you're actually becoming the person that is ready and able to sustain that success. If you are a Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this is happening in your 11th house. The 11th house has to do with your networks, your friendship groups, the people you keep around you. It also has to do with your hopes, your dreams, and your aspirations. So this full moon brings endings when it comes to those themes, or it could be an insight, revelation that comes in with these energies, that comes in with these themes. Saturn, which is the ruler of this full moon, is in your second house of finances and resources. So it's asking you to see, where is it that maybe your current ideas of your finances, where is it that maybe your finances are getting in the way of your networks, your social groups, or where is it that your social groups are getting in the way of your finances? Is it that maybe the social groups and circles that you're in are not necessarily reflective of the kind of money you want to make, or maybe they're thinking too small and keeping you very limited in your thinking, which is then reflected in your finances? Or vice versa. It could also be that maybe your networks and social groups, you're trying to change them and restructure them to be more in line with the visions and dreams and goals of your future that you have. in terms of what you want to make and how you want to structure your finances. Do the people around you and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, do they reflect your values and what you think you're worth? A couple other aspects that are happening this week that are still coloring this energy of this full moon is the day right before we're having Mars moving into your fourth house. Mars in the fourth house has to do with your home, your family life. This can bring some disruption, some instability when it comes to your home and family life. You could decide that you need to make some changes. Things aren't necessarily going as planned. There could be some disagreements. There could be some unexpected changes that happen with your home and family life that requires you to shift your living situation. We also have Jupiter entering into the sign of Leo in your sixth house. This is happening the day right after this full moon, and it is a year-long transit, so that's going to be affecting you for the next 12 months. This is bringing opportunities and areas of expansion when it comes to your work and your daily routines and your habits. So if you've been dealing with some more negative energies when it comes to your work, when it comes to your daily routines, maybe you haven't been getting on a proper schedule, this could be a great time of expansion when it comes to those things. Overall, the theme for Pisces this week is your future is changing because your priorities are also shifting. There's a lot of changes happening in the home and family life also. So there's a lot of things that are shifting and changing, and it's going to put you in a place of understanding what you value and what your priorities lie in. And finally, if you are in Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is a more hidden house. It is one of more self-reflection and introspection and isolation. So I wouldn't be surprised if you decide that you don't want to be around people during this full moon, especially this week. This week is honestly pretty chaotic. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to stay inside and just not really talk to people and just observe, because as an Aquarius rising, you guys are very good at observing and understanding patterns and seeing things. It's going to be a great week for you guys to do that and just sit back and observe all the chaos and everything that's happening with everyone else, and then make your own observations and come out with them as we move on into next week as well. So making sure you're taking the time to rest and reflect and just, do your shadow work, do some journaling. Your dream space can be extremely vivid with this full moon. The ruler of this full moon is Saturn. It's your natural ruler as well. And it's in your third house currently in the sign of Aries. So it's asking you to be a little bit more disciplined when it comes to your communication. So definitely thinking before you speak, making sure you're not just blurting things out. I know you're observing everything in the background. I know you got a lot of different opinions, and I know you want to tell them. I know you want to tell people about them, but making sure that you're just taking the time, sit with them before you really release them out into the open, because you already know, as an Aquarius, not everyone is always ready to hear what it is you have to say. Sometimes the things you can say can come off a little bit blunt, a little bit harsh, and not everyone likes to hear it. So taking a step back, this is a week to take a step back, reflect, analyze, and keep your opinions to yourself until the time is ready, until the time is ripe. Couple other things happening this week that are going to be coloring this energy is Mars is moving into your fifth house. The fifth house has to do with your creativity, it has to do with romance and children. So Mars is gearing up to move and meet with Uranus in your fifth house as well. This can bring some instability, this can bring some chaos, things that happen out of the blue when it comes to these areas and themes of your life: creativity, romance, children. So there could be some unexpected changes that come in that area this week specifically. It's also like reigniting your passion when it comes to things like romance and creativity. So there could be a lot more energy that comes from this. But I would say definitely wait until the conjunction has passed. This week is going to be like a peak of instability and just like chaos. And then as we move on into the rest of the summer, and as Mars continues to move its way through Gemini, it's going to give you that passion and that desire to like want to flirt with more people, or like open yourself up to relationships, or be a little bit more creative. So this week is going to feel a little destabilizing, but as we move on, things are going to start feeling just like you have a little bit more fire under you when it comes to these themes. And one last great thing that's happening this week is the day right after this full moon, we have Jupiter moving into your seventh house. The seventh house has to do with marriage, partnerships, and relationships. Jupiter brings expansion, wealth, and opportunity. So this is a year-long transit, so you're going to be feeling this energy for the next year. So it's going to bring a lot of expansion and good energy when it comes to your relationships and partnerships. So I would definitely relish in that and focus a little bit more on that energy that is going to be coloring the rest of your year. But overall, the theme for this week and this full moon is that this week is going to be a little bit more quiet, a little bit more introspective, but it is a nice time to pull back and really reflect before you jump forward and move into a more energized part of your life, because things are definitely going to start picking up for you guys as we continue to move on into the year. So overall, that is the energy for everybody. That is this full moon in Capricorn. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. Make sure you do check out the weekly astrology forecast that I did for this week, because this week we have so much going on, and I did dive a little bit deeper into that, how we're going to be feeling this collectively on a collective scale. If you do want to book a personal reading with me, you want to understand these energies a little bit better. How is it going to be affecting you? How are the next 3 months ahead going to be for you? If you have any questions specifically about your chart, you've never read your chart before, I do offer readings down below. You can book them on my website. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching and staying with me here on this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.